What is happening, people? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're keeping very well. Welcome back to the weekly Scarfe Spurs Talk podcast. I'm joined by a fantastic panel with still Billie T to join. Firstly, Julie, welcome back onto the show. How you been doing?
I've been doing fine. I'm busy writing about Spurs. We're updating the Spurs biography, and you're in it, Harry, of course.
Thank you.
And I'm on the Ange chapter. Ange arrives chapter now. So about to wrap it up, really.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. Thank you for all you do, Julie. Your incredible work. So it's great to get you on. So thank you. Justin, welcome back. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. As I say, we've had a bit of a busy week, so it'll be good to get into it.
It certainly will be very good to get into it. Welcome on to the show. Billy, how you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yeah, lots happened in the last week or so, hasn't it? Great to be back for the new season. I'm really excited. Yeah, a lot to talk about. So yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
It certainly is. Thank you very much, Billy, for coming on. And Ian, after our show yesterday, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Glad to be on. A couple of newbies for me. I've worked with Julie before, but not on a stream. And Billy, I don't think I've worked with you before. JJ and you obviously are old veterans. But in lieu of being on with Julie, I put my my retro Spurs number 4 Danny Blanchflower shirt on. And if anybody wants to know who Danny Blanchflower is, because they're a bit too young, only God in a Spurs shirt, Julie, right?
That's right. Too right.
Thank you very much all for joining me this evening. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It's free to do so. It literally takes a few seconds to do so as well. As we go into the 24-25 season, which is literally upon us, so it'd be massively appreciated. If you're listening on a podcast platform, a lot of you do, so big up to every single one of you. Don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review. We'll start with the Bayern game. And Julie, I'll kick it off with you. I know you were there. What did you make of the game as a whole? You're over that 90 minutes. Was there improvement from the first time we played Bayern?
It was a bit of the same pattern, game of two halves, not in the old-fashioned sense, but in a new way, because, first half, it was the sort of names, the usual squad. Second half, when we were much improved, he brought on, the younger ones. The whole energy changit. We're much, much better in the second half. Things to worry about. Vicario was, bit. I think the trouble is he didn't have his regular defence in front of him, you can't really blame the early goals on him. But brilliant start, Decky. Just fantastic 24-second goal, controlled the ball so well. He just I thought he was going to stumble and fall over, but he just rolled it over his foot. And there you are, 1-0 against Bayern. But it went downhill a bit after that. But we came good in the second half.
Yeah, we certainly did. Won the second half. If you look at it like that, I like that way of looking at it.
I will say,
thank you very much.
Yeah, I will say though, I shed a tear at the end when Harry went round the stands clapping the audience, because of course he didn't get a chance to say a proper farewell when he left. So yeah, that was a touching moment. And also, I thought it was real. There was this sort of tin pot trophy at the ceremony at the end, the Visit Malta trophy or something like that, and he wouldn't lift it. And I thought, that's a decent man there. He couldn't do it. So it's all good really. It was a friendly and a bit, I would say, kind of. I wouldn't say it was better than the first leg, so to speak. I think it was, again, a kind of practice match.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. So no, thank you. Billy, I'll come to you. Do you think there was a significant improvement comparing to the first game? Some people go, look, we were a lot better. We had a lot of players back. So what's your kind of take on it?
I wouldn't really read that much into it in terms of improvement, just because a lot of the players were playing their first in the second half anyway. A lot of the players were playing their first preseason game of the summer because of the international tournaments, and it was a kind of a similar story which we've had all preseason, where the youngsters come on and look a lot more impressive than the first team players, I think, at the moment, just because they've probably got more to prove. But yeah, I think there was definitely some improvements. I think Kulusevski is really strong again, and he's been strong all preseason. He's probably been our standout player. I think Spence is really good at right back in preseason, but maybe he struggled against Bayern Munich at left back a little bit more this time. But I still think he's had a really good preseason overall. But I just think it's a similar story that we've had all preseason, where it's the youngsters are the ones that look really exciting. I think that happened in both games against Bayern Munich. And I'm sure we'll talk a bit more today, in particular, about Mikey Moore. But again, he came on and impressed. So yeah, I think it's kind of similar story to preseason, where the youngsters are the ones worth getting excited about, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned one, star young player there, Mikey Moore, who we'll get onto later. People who don't know, signed his first professional contract with the club today after 10-17 yesterday. So we'll get into that. So do stay tuned if you're interested in that part of the show. Justin, I'm interested to hear your take on what you thought of the game on Saturday. What was your overall reflection on the 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think when you look at it, obviously, as Julie rightly said, we had a good start, but then we had the same problems as we've had from time to time, which is obviously the set pieces, which have sort of plagued us for so long. Obviously, I think we got to sort of caveat it with the fact that it wasn't the starting defence that Vicario will have in front of him come Leicester. I think 3 of those 4 won't be in that. But I think the disappointing thing for me was in the first half, there were players there, some of the main players you thought you kind of hoped for a little bit more, the likes of perhaps Bissouma, Johnson, Sarr, Maddison in particular, and then all of a sudden in the second half, when we had Archie Gray, Bergvall coming in as well, we tended to see a more sort of free-flowing, attacking, relaxed type of football. Even, Mikey Moore and Bentancur, which, I think it was Billy who said it, that the players have got a lot, or probably doing it to prove that they should be in there. But I don't see why they shouldn't be. I think in terms of against Leicester, why would you give these kids these sort of minutes if you're then not going to turn around and be using them? Because I think some of them have had more minutes than the likes of Maddison and Bissouma, who those two in particular haven't had tournament football. So you would sit there and you would think, okay, well, if you're going to give the likes of Mikey Moore and Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray these minutes, surely then they've got to have a big part to play in Leicester on Monday. So that would be my take in terms of from the second half, was the fact that those players in particular stood out, played really well. And I think there should be a reward maybe for 1 or 2 of them to start against Leicester.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it'd only be fair. So thank you very much for that, Justin. Ian, we'll come to you. I want to know your reflection on the game on Saturday, but also, did anyone stand out to you? We talked a lot about the young players. Any young player in particular you thought, wow, yeah, they're ready now?
Well, I thought Bergvall from the start, and the boy Gray. I know he's struggled maybe a bit more against Bayern than he has in the earlier games, but it's hard for me to actually add much to what's been said, because I think the guys have absolutely nailed it. But I was at Tynecastle, and interestingly, we had the first team effectively start, and they were okay, although we had Skip and Gray at centre half, and Gray was brilliant at centre half, by some distance our best player. And then we brought a lot of the kids on second half, and suddenly we were playing the kind of football you would expect from Ange Postecoglou: free-flowing, energetic, players breaking behind the lines, and we scored 4 times, and we could have scored 6 or 7. We were really, really excellent. And the point about that is that's been the pattern in every single pre-season game. That the Bissoumas, and we'll maybe come on to him, the Maddisons and the Sarrs have been pedestrian, lethargic, careless. And you can't play careless football when you're playing Ange ball, because it relies on the retention of possession. and it relies on turning that possession into chances. I know we're going to talk about Solanke afterwards, and converting the chances that you make. Now, if you give away possession clumsily, you're going to be in trouble under Angeball. People talk about it being kamikaze football. It's not kamikaze football if the players play the game the way he wants it to be played. And I think too many of them aren't. And we've seen, the youngsters come on, the Donleys, the Devines, the Greys, the Moores, the Bergvals, and they look better than Bissouma, Maddison, and Sarr. And I mean, I don't think he'll start with all of them. I've got an idea the kind of team he'll play, subject to no further incomings, which I wouldn't rule out. But I'm totally in agreement with Justin that these boys have been bought to play a role. I know some of them are young, but if you're good enough, you're old enough. And with Maddison really doing nothing, Sarr just looks a fraction of the player that he should be. And Bissouma, well, I've got my views on Bissouma. We can maybe come on to that. I'd like to see some of the kids get in a game. And I totally agree. We've been better in every game and much more energetic than when the kids have come on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you very much, Ian. Last thing I want to kind of touch on with the Bayern game is the issue of set pieces. I think it's going to keep popping up, but yeah, we are in pre-season, so I do think we'll touch on it. Julie, I'll come back to you. Does it concern you? 2 goals again conceded from set pieces. It was the same, North London derby. Do you look at it and go, the defence isn't fully fit? We've still got players to come back. When we conceded the goals, for example, there's no Romero, no Van der Ven on the pitch, or are you genuinely worried about the way we deal with set pieces at the moment?
I think the set piece issue has been going on a long time. In fact, do we need a proper set piece coach? Have we got a set piece coach? I don't know, but that's where we're vulnerable. Maybe Ange doesn't think it's important. I can't think that's the way he'd think. But yeah, I mean, those 2 Bayern goals, we were taken for noddy, basically. I don't know what's going on there.
No, I find it really, really frustrating. It was an ongoing issue, as you said, last season. It was going on for a while as well. So it's a pain. Hopefully it does get sorted. Billy, I'll come to you. Does it concern you, the issues of set pieces? It appears to me like this is zonal marking. We've seen so many players free because you could look at it, can't you, and go, like I said to Julie, that when we concede the goal, no Romero, no Van der Ven, or you can look at it and go, there's just too much space. Whoever's on the pitch, it doesn't look good though, does it?
No, it doesn't look good. You would have hoped there would be something they would work on, pretty much as a real priority over summer because it was our biggest downfall last season. But I think you make the good point there. I think a lot of it is maybe a personnel issue. Haven't had our back four play all pre-season. Hopefully when they come in, and hopefully they've got a couple of weeks to work on it before the Prem starts. They've got this week together because Romero, Van der Ven have not really had much of a pre-season with us. So hopefully we'll see an improvement there. I also think Solanke is going to make a big difference in that regard because he's a much better aerial player than much better aerial threat than a lot of our players at the moment. So I think that's an interesting dimension too to add.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you very much, Billy. I think a large part of it, as you said, is personnel. Solanke adds that. You look at Bournemouth; they're very good at defending set pieces because of him last season. So no, thank you very much, Justin. Set pieces. I know this is going to be the first time we talked about regular on the show last season. It felt like every week we were talking about this. Why are we talking about this though now? Really, it should be sorted, shouldn't it? You bring in a set piece coach, you prioritise them in training. I mean, I know this sounds simple to us, but surely you start by scrapping zonal marking, go man to man. Because look at Bayern, we gave players so much space. I mean, me or you could have scored that, right?
Yeah, I think the difficulty is that has sort of been seen with Ange is that we're not going to see a set piece coach. He's in his entire career, he's never had a set piece coach. I think what we hopefully will see is that whoever is looking after the set pieces and the marking or the zonal marking with regards to that, because he tends to mix things up, chop and change them in terms of his coaches. So you have to hope that, with the two that came in, Nick Montgomery and Sergio Raimondo, I think his name was, the other one, you hope that one of them potentially might take that on, because it is just going to absolutely hamper us, particularly with whatever ambition that we've got going forward for the season. If we're going to keep almost going into games having to think, well, you'll score 2, we'll score 3, and okay, having Solanke there, to me, hopefully that will be an improvement on it. But when you look at the situation on it, it is a concern, a continued concern, and we just have to hope that, okay, he doesn't bring in a set piece coach, but he turns round and either he or the coaching staff take some accountability and fix that, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out for the next 38 games what our opponents are going to do. They're going to get the cheap free kicks and lump the ball in and see what happens.
Absolutely. You can play Ange ball as well as he would like. You're fluid passing, but a lot of people will say, and I've heard it across a lot of different shows, if you get the passing right or you don't give a foul away, that doesn't happen. And that's right. But the footballers are humans. Eventually, you're going to give a foul away at some point, whether it be in a game or come later on. So you need to learn how to deal with them when you make those mistakes. So it's a really basic thing. I think I think we should appoint a set piece coach, but man-to-man marking changes something drastically. But we saw, whether it be Muller, whether it be whoever it may be, Meccano, he just had too much space. Just unmarked, could have taken 5-6 touches without anyone being around them. So I think that it is an ongoing issue and it leaves us vulnerable going into the new season. But I think that's the difference. Even last season, potentially from going 5th to 4th, you look at that Arsenal game, really we lost out on set pieces as bad as we were at times. So Ian, I will come to you because you touched on it, didn't we? Spurs diehards last night. I want to get your thoughts. So you were asking the questions yesterday, so I'm going to be asking you the questions now. Little flip. What do you make of it?
I was firing the questions at people yesterday. I've got a few thoughts. I can cope with, I'll call it Vindaloo football. We're going to score one more than you. As long as that's what we're playing, and it's attack with sense. What annoys me is that we're giving away so many stupid goals. I mean, that third goal, for example, which proved to be the winner, there were 3-on-1 at the back post. Now, you can talk about coaching all you like, but proper footballers should be able to work out for themselves that if there's 3 opponents at the back post and one of you need to go and deal with that. Second thing I want to say is I worry about the lack of height in the team. We haven't really got. I mean, Van der Ven's pretty big. Romero decent enough. But when you look at even our forward players, with Decky or Johnson, Son, even Richarlison's no wizard in the air when he plays. Midfield, more or less the same. We need more height, and I think Solanke is going to give us that. I also picked up some stats, and I haven't checked them, but I'm assuming I picked them up on Twitter from a guy that I think is pretty reliable. And I've got them out because I think they're instructive. In the 19 Premier League games that Porro, Kuti, Van der Ven and Udogie played together, we conceded 20 goals. So effectively won a game. In the 26 games where 3 of those 4 played, we conceded 33 goals. And in games where 2 of those 4 played, we conceded 30. So, there is a clear correlation between that 4 staying fit and our ability to because I think we only concede 1 goal a game. I can see us scoring 2 or more most games under Ange. But you've got the problem if they don't stay fit, and we don't have massive cover. We've let Royale go, so be it. Dragusin looks all right, but I think he still looks a bit rusty at the highest level. Davis, I quite like Davis, but I like Davis as a utility player. I don't really trust him to come in and do a really great job. And I think he's a left-sided centre half, and I think playing as a left side of a 2 or even a left back, he's more vulnerable. So if we can keep those 4 fit, then we've got a much better chance of not conceding as many goals. But it is annoying that we continue to concede the same goals so often. And we know that we're vulnerable on the counter-attack in transition just because of the way Ange plays. And if we don't score when we've got possession, then it can look like kamikaze football, leaving us so open.
Yeah, it certainly can. No, I completely agree with you, and you really balanced answer there, Ian. So no, I do really appreciate that. I do want to move on to some transfer news. Billy, I'll start with you, and we start with Emerson Royal, who departed today. Is it the right move for all parties, do you think?
As much as it pains me to say, as you know, he's my favourite player, it is time to move on. I think sadly, it has come to an end. I love the guy, not so much in love with the player, but I love the personality. It's a really good move for him as well. He's managed to, could argue he's upgraded on us by going to AC Milan, who'll be playing in the Champions League. So yeah, I'm really happy for him. And I think we've done a lot of good business this summer of getting players sold, which we've struggled with a lot in the past. We've got rid of players like Højbjerg, who's been here a long time, been a good servant for us. And Ndombele, we've managed to get rid of permanently. This literally just coming now is Lo Celso at links to Betis and Villa as well. So it looks like we're going to, most of those players that we've wanted sold, like Sessegnon, Tanganga, a lot of players have gone. So yeah, I think it's a good phase of this window that we've managed to sell and shift quite a lot of players that we've needed to shift for a long time.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that's one thing that we've done well under Johan Lange. I think that's one thing, incomings up until Solanke, I think you can question. I think outgoings you can't. I think it's been very good. So no, I do appreciate that. Justin, Emerson Royal's move to AC Milan. What do you make of obviously what we've got to him? We're hearing, it could be up to 15 million euros. That's more than what we heard initially. We talked about 5-6 million, so it has gone up in that sense. But do you think this is a good move for him also?
I think so, because although he's had moments which is, in terms of what we've been trying to get him to be, it just hasn't worked really. And he was brought in for a manager who lasted 5 minutes, and then they tried to mould him for Conte and, mould him for Stali, and everybody tried to have a crack at making it work for him, and they just couldn't. So I think it is a good move because, he's not going to get the football under Tottenham, especially as Spence has now shown that we don't need another right back. So we're probably going to go in season with Porro and Spence as our right back option. So is he going to go into centre back? Well, we've got Dragoshin and we've got Ben Davies as the backup, so he's not really going to go there. Are you really going to play him at left back? Well, again, you've got Davies, and hopefully Tottenham will do some business there. So I think, okay, Tottenham paid a lot more for him, but it hasn't worked. They've been able to get somebody back in through the door, and I think I've said it before. I think Italian football will suit him. It's a slower game, more technical game. I think for him, he'll be able to be more of a defender. Whereas, as I said, at Tottenham, we've asked him too many times. I remember the video they put out of him trying cross after cross after cross after cross, and most of them went into row Z. But in terms of it, you just look at him, and he's one of those that falls into the category of a good player, but not for the Premier League. Yeah,
no, I think so. I'm good, but not quite good enough for where we want to be as well. So no, I do completely agree with that, Justin. Julie, I'll come to you. What do you make of Emerson's time at Spurs overall? And do you think this is a good move for him? And Justin mentions there, he was a dedicated player as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased for him. I'm sorry he's leaving because, like Billy says, he was a favourite player. I did like him immensely. He had such a personality, but it was like when he was taking crosses and things like that, he had a foot like a trampoline, basically. It never ever seemed, you just knew it was never going to get any better. I just, it's so good to have characters in a side, and from that point of view, I am sorry to see him go. I thought he seemed a really nice bloke, fun and everything like that. But from his point of view, I mean, I don't think this is a bad move for him at all. In fact, I think, as Billy was saying, in a way, it's kind of, he's gone to a better place, so to speak. Just a word about PEH. I'm quite sorry to see Højbjerg go. I mean, I know he's been around a while, but you know, he did some really good things and he had a fantastic attitude. Again, not absolutely top dollar, but I thought he was a valuable member of the squad. And yeah, I'm sorry to see him go as well, although, you know, these things happen.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that Højbjerg's time at Spurs, I think, goes under the radar because of maybe what fans saw towards the end. But I think you've got to think about how important he was to Mourinho, and you know, I think he's one of the first names on the team sheet. So no, thank you very much for that, Julie. Ian, I'll come to you. We've done well, haven't we, this window? We're getting players out the door, and you know, bringing down that wage bill, if you like, getting players out the door to be able to bring players in. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Myself on mute. How many times in recent windows have we said we need to get players out the door? We need to get players out the door. And the best we've managed to do with some is short-term loans, no obligation to buy. And it's been papering over the cracks of a squad that you're still paying significant wages for, who are never going to be good enough to play for Tottenham, and certainly not going to be good enough to play regularly. So we've gone through, you know, we have got rid of a lot of players. Maybe there'll be one or two we end up regretting, but I don't think so. Royal, funnily enough, at centre half has been really, really good in some of the games, particularly the last game in Seoul. He was really excellent. But again, I don't think that was going to be any long-term answer. And it's good for Tottenham, and he's gone to a big club in a lovely country. So good luck to him. Pierre, I understand Pierre, and funny enough, I think you said right. You know, so much of his good work was under the radar. I remember watching back the 3-0 game when we humped Arsenal and got into the top four, and we can always enjoy watching Tottenham batter Arsenal. But one of the things, you know, it's the attacking play that catches your eye. But every time Arsenal cleared the ball, this is only on replay you pick it up, it was Højbjerg that was there, just sitting back, picking up, and then feeding the wingers or whatever to keep the pressure on Arsenal. He was absolutely superb at it. And it was something I never noticed at all in the stadium. But at the end of the day, I don't think he was mobile enough and quick enough to play the kind of football that that Ange wants. You know, you particularly playing that 6 holding role. Yeah, you can do the tackling, but you need to be able to really drive the ball through the lines. And I don't think Pierre was ever going to be good enough to play that role. And I think Ange knew it. And in the end, I think Pierre knew he wasn't going to get that gig. That's why he wasn't playing very much last year. And again, good luck to him. He's got a good move to a nice country, nice weather, good league, probably good money. Happy for him. But it was time for them to move on. And hopefully we can get, Lo Celso, Reguilon, straight swap with Rafinha at Barcelona. Sounds like good business to me. We're Reguilon. But hopefully we can get 2 or 3 more out. Get some of the younger ones that we still want to keep, like Scarlett, I think linked tonight with Oxford United, was linked yesterday with Sunderland. So we can get the players that we want, and I think there's a few of the kids we'll want to keep and integrate them with the first team. But some of them that maybe aren't going to get that much game time, let's get them out and get them playing regularly and what have you. It's been a good window from that point of view. If we can get another 2 or 3 in, we are cooking.
Yeah, we certainly are. No, I do agree with you, Ian. And I think we've gone from a massive squad of actually 1 point close to 40 not that long ago. We forget that. Now we've brought it right down to the point that, let's see, Lo Celso and Reguilon on leave. That is only in the early 20s. It's gone right down massively. So I think that's credit to the club for doing that. It's certainly done well with that part. But since our last podcast, we've seen the arrival of Dominic Solanke. We knew it was close at the last podcast, but we've had it confirmed he is a Tottenham Hotspur player. Justin, I'm going to kick it off with you. Because we talked about it, didn't we? As it was kind of progressive, but not since it's been announced. How happy are you now he's here? And would you call it a marquee signing? Obviously, our record transfer.
I think it's a difficult one to call it a marquee signing because he's a player that we need. There's no disputing that, and I think his stats back that up, because if you look at what he got, 19 goals, I think he scored over 70 goals over the last 4 seasons, holds the ball up really, really well, brings others into it, and is prolific. And I think obviously, particularly as he is going to be the competition for Richarlison, I think actually he's going to be the main man, because if I was to choose between who starts, both of them about the same price, but you're going to go with Solanke. I think he offers a lot more than what Richarlison does. I was excited. I was kind of torn between him and Tony, because I thought both of them offered similar attributes. But I just felt that with Solanke, there were a couple of advantages in the fact that he hadn't gone to the Euros, so he's got a pre-season ahead of him, a full pre-season. He'll have a point to prove. He's not. And I think, as we've seen with the players that Ange has signed, he's signing players that want to come to Tottenham, that aren't doing Tottenham a favour. So, you look at it, this is a guy who had a few unlucky spells, particularly at Chelsea and Liverpool, wasn't really given a chance at Bournemouth, shown what he can do, has got this move, and he will be the main man. I really think so. I think in terms of marquee signing, I think the problem is his name's not Domenico Solanke. I think that's the key part there. If he was called that, and he was, from Argentina, and he'd played at the Copa America, I think we'd have been waxing lyrical with regards to it. I think the other problem being is we've spent the entire summer trying to convince ourselves we're going to get Eberechi Eze, which I think, if I'm being brutally honest, we need to move on from that. I don't see that one happening at all, which is a shame, because I think his versatility would be really beneficial for Tottenham. But I think what we're going to see is probably another right winger and a left back. But I do think that if we get the supply right into him, then we could be seeing a guy getting maybe more than he did at Bournemouth. And if he does that, then he does, I think, rightly deserve to be called a marquee signing. But at the moment, I think because we have been sort of toying with the Eze situation, I think that's what's thrown it out. So,
yeah,
would I say he's a marquee signing? I think you could certainly say that in terms of the value and what he'll bring to Tottenham. Obviously, though, time will tell if that will pay off, because as we've seen in Tottenham in the past, big money usually doesn't mean big success when it comes to who we sign. And there's one word that you can say with that, who beautifully walked out the door, and that is Ndombele.
Absolutely, and Ndombele would be your prime example. I think we had a few, even though we paid less. But no, I think that's nicely summarised. I do really appreciate it, Justin. You make a good point as well. I suppose you go to. I mean, I think Eze is that good that anyone is going to feel like nowhere near as good, if you know what I mean, when you think of Eze and what he can bring. So I think that's a very good point to actually think about that. So no, I do really appreciate that, Justin. Billy, Solanke is here. What do you make of him? The same question. Do you consider it to be a marquee signing? It is our record transfer after all. We've gone out there, we spent the money, and then we've got the striker. That's what we wanted.
Yeah, I think you have to, really. And until today, the Alvarez deal was confirmed just earlier. It was the most expensive deal in the whole of Europe this summer. So, I think it definitely qualifies as a marquee signing. And I've completely U-turned on it, to be honest. I wasn't massively excited about it at the beginning, because I just probably didn't know as much about him as I could have done. I've done a lot of research since, watched a few videos and stuff. And yeah, I've been really, really impressed. And I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is that, well, obviously he's a player that Ange wanted, but it's obviously, for me, always the most important thing. I think you should always be back in the manager in the transfer window. And he seems like a good profile fit for the way that we play. So yeah, I've since became a lot more excited about it.
Yeah, okay. No, thank you. That's really good to hear. I think it's easy. You look at it and you not get excited straight away. I think that's understandable. Some of the players they've been linked to would be Eze, to hear Solanke and you go, oh, only from Bournemouth. But yeah, when you do research, I think you find out he fits the system. So no, I do really appreciate that, Billy. Ian, what do you make of Solanke? I think we did touch on it last night. I mean, you talked about that you'd be at that added presence from set pieces. I completely agree. But how many goals can you see him getting?
Well, I can see him in 38 league matches, certainly getting 20, 25. I think with the way we play, I think I'm with the others. I think when I saw we're paying 65 million for Solanke, I thought, what? And people say this man, Levy doesn't spend any money, and he's blowing 65 million pounds on, on a player like Solanke, who's failed at Liverpool, failed at Chelsea, but of course as a young man. And then you start to actually examine it, and particularly people that do these things professionally and start putting the stats together and what have you. There was a fabulous, and anyone, fellow panelists, but anyone watching in the chat in 442 magazine, I can't remember the name of the guy, Steve Creeler, something like that. I don't know, Julie, you may know him, did an analysis. And if you look at the statistics, Solanke's statistics, his heat maps, where he scores his goals from and what have you, most of his goals are in and around the 6-yard box, 10 yards out, 11 yards out, left foot, right foot, the occasional header. And when you think of the way that Ange likes to play, with getting the balls, the balls behind the fullbacks and the wingers coming in, and either getting the ball back to one of the inverted fullbacks or midfield players coming in. We've missed too many of those chances, and one of which has been we haven't had a natural centre forward in the middle of the box to actually stick the ball in the net. That's where we failed so often. You look at that game, that Chelsea game, for example, was a classic example, the home game, where we ended up losing 4-1. And I know there were mitigating circumstances because we finished with 9. But to me, that was November, and we're playing absolutely perfect handball. Chance after chance after chance is going begging. On another day, we're 4 up in 15 minutes, and Pochettino's looking for the exit door. He will score goals, a lot of goals, with the service that we will provide. I'm absolutely certain of it, because he is a pretty natural goal scorer. And I think one of the things, a lot of our signings over the last 10, 20 years have been very much hit and hope. And there's been some good ones, but there's been some bad ones as well. Now, we've got an analytics approach. We've got Lange, we've got a variety of people making this analysis. And then you've got the manager saying, that's the player I want. And one of the things that came out from that 4-4-2 analysis was Solanke's heat map is almost identical to Kyogo, who Ange had at Celtic. Almost identical. Who scored goals by the bucket load. So I'm hoping upon hope that the professionals have actually done their job, and Ange has said, this is the player I want. And it doesn't matter that it's not a sexy signing. It doesn't matter it's not Domino Solanke. It doesn't matter, because if he's got that ability, he's got that confidence, and doesn't get spooked by coming to a big club, as some players do, and realises this is his big opportunity, and at 26, 27, he's going to take it. I think this could be a stunning bit of business.
Yeah, absolutely. People in the chat do agree with you as well. Ian, I completely agree with this comment from David Clark in the YouTube chat.
Yeah.
He says Solanke's rising form has a lot to do with Bournemouth's excellent new coach, Iriola. He'll be a good signing, a total box player who knows where the net is. He'll also be a great asset defensively. Yeah. I completely agree. That was nicely
100%.
summed up.
David has made similar points on my shows, and I think he's absolutely right. It will help defending corners and things like that. He's not exceptional in the air, but like any tall centre forward, he's decent. And all you need to do is get a flick on something rather than letting it go to the opposing centre half. Look, it's not a sexy signing, and it's a lot of money. But the more I read about it, and the more I think about it, and the more I trust the real professionals that have been, mulling over this decision, the more excited I am about Solanke being part of the missing link in the club. That we create an awful lot of chances, and that if even half of them get converted, we're scoring a lot of goals and winning a lot of football matches.
Yeah, no, okay, fair enough. Thank you very much, Ian.
Can I just come on? David's just come back with this
Yeah,
thing
go on.
about Soldado, just very quickly, because that came up on my show last night with Brian Daigle. The thing about what got me about Soldado was that was unsigned under Martin Jol. And when you looked at the montage of goals he scored when he played for Valencia, a lot of them were from long diagonal balls played from, you know, inside the opposing half, but not from wing positions. From you know, the left and right hand channels, with Soldado running in between the centre halves and getting a touch on it. And we didn't play like that under Martin Jol. You know, there was no long balls under Martin Jol. If there was any criticism, it was tippy-tappy-toe football round the box. So I couldn't understand that. And this is actually, to me, the antithesis of that. That the coaching staff, the analytics people have looked at, what do you actually need? Soldado may have been a good player, but he was never going to fit in with Martin Jol's tactics. And I think this, I hope, is where the big difference is, that this is an analytical based signing, and we've got a player that absolutely will do the job that the coach wants in the part of the field that the coach needs to do it most, which is in and around the 6-yard box.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you, Ian. Let's hope so. I do think it's a good signing. Julie, I'll move to you because I want to move on to Mikey Moore, who signed his first professional contract today. Obviously, I did say at the start of the show, turned 17 yesterday. He's would you call him like a future star, Julie, or a generational talent? What do you make of what you've seen, the little bits you've seen of Mikey Moore so far?
I think it's a bit early to start calling him a generational talent because he's not Glenn Hoddle. But he's very promising. He needs. I wonder how he's going to cope with the PL, because, you know, he's 17. He's got a lot of growing to do. He's still quite slight. He obviously knows what to do. I mean, I suppose if you've got Kobbie Mainoo coming in, you know, it's like they used to say, you know, you're getting old when the policemen are getting younger. I mean, I know I've got old because I'm all the players are now, you know, in their teens or early 20s. And I think that's partly behind the way that Spurs are going now. We've got a much younger profile in the players. Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence a bit about Mikey Moore. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he's a brilliant prospect, brilliant. But I don't think it does him any favors if everybody's sort of talking him up right now. When you think of Harry Kane, who took so long to come good, but those sort of fallow years really kind of did it for him in the end. You know, I'm not saying Mikey Moore should have been sent out on loan, because obviously, you know, a lot has been seen in him. I'm just, you know, I hate to dampen everybody's expectations, and probably people think I'm talking rubbish. But I'd just like to wait a bit longer before I start saying, oh yeah, hooray. You know, we've got our new Glenn Hoddle, we've got our new Harry Kane. I mean, that's just my take on it, because I'm old and sour.
No, I think you're right, and I think it's important not to get encouraged, get carried away. And like you said, Harry Kane's hard graft over several years, several loans. They might not take that for Mikey Moore, and I think the way the club treat it, I don't know, it just feels that like they know Mikey Moore's a special talent. Even like with the post about how long he's been here at the club, you don't quite see anything like that with any other player. I think they recognise he's, a raw talent, if you like, but he has to be looked after, nurtured in the right way, is the way that I see it. Billy, Mikey Moore, how excited are you about him at this moment in time?
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. I do echo what Julie says, though. You obviously have to be careful about handling this really well. But I think the interview that he did today, well, it came out today anyway, that, he seems really grounded and really modest and really, he seems to be speaking like, it's crazy that he turned 17 yesterday, and he's able to talk like he is. He seems a lot wiser than his age would suggest. But I think you're right. I think the club have made a big deal of it because I think he's legally only allowed to sign a 3-year contract at the moment because he's 17. I think when he turns 18, that can extend. But I think every club in Europe would take him immediately because he's that much of a special talent. I think he's probably the best young talent of his age group in the country. So I think the club are doing everything they can to make sure that he feels special and that he feels like this is his home. Because make no mistake, if we put a foot out of line, then he was already strongly linked to Real Madrid, Man City, Man United, everyone already when he was 16. So those links are not going to disappear overnight. So I think we've got to play it really, really carefully as a club. And I think Julia is right. We probably have to manage our expectations of him because it doesn't help when that much weight of expectation on someone's shoulders can be really, really, really difficult to deal with. But every time I've seen him in preseason, he looks ready. And it's crazy to say that about a 17-year-old player. It's crazy that he looks like he could play in the Premier League already. And I've been really guilty of saying we need to go and sign a right winger. I was gutted that we missed out on Neto, but I think there's a world where Mikey Moore could get a few minutes in the Premier League and then we don't know back. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, let's hope that's the case. And you mentioned the interview there, and I thought that he done really well. As you said, spoke really well in it. So that was really good to hear. Justin, I'll come to you. Yeah, actually, we'll ask you about the interview. I don't know if you've seen it with Mikey Moore, but I thought he spoke really, really well if you've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, we're talking. It's quite nice to hear a maturity and a calm sort of approach from someone so young, and hopefully that's something that he'll take forward. I do think we have to obviously be very careful, take it with a pinch of salt and not try and rush this. We've seen it before where you look at the likes of, when Troy Parrott was there, we were screaming for him to get into the team and play games. Dane Scarlett, we were screaming to get into the team. We've had false dawns when it comes to these type of players. I do feel that I wouldn't be surprised if he is given minutes, maybe more in the Europa League, because, that is a competition where, as much as I don't agree with it, I think Tottenham aren't that bothered by. So I think they will, perhaps the likes of him, Bergvall, Gray, maybe will get more minutes in that than they would do in the Premier League. I hope that not to be the case, but I just feel that when you've got a talent like that, you want to nurture it and take your time, but you also know that you need to give it experience. And, if we can get him more and more minutes in the Europa League and he flourishes in that, do we then build it into the Premier League as well? So I just hope from Tottenham's perspective, they are managing the expectations. They're looking after him and they're sort of trying to make sure that he will be given that chance and that opportunity. And I also think as well, on the other side of that it isn't basically dumping everybody else by the wayside. So, I mean, it's in the likes of Will Lancashire, Jamie Donnelly, Tyrese Hall, they are being shown that, okay, you maybe aren't as good as this kid, but you have still shown, exceptional talent, and we are going to nurture that and bring it forward. So I do hope that it's balanced, because obviously what we don't want to happen is, for him to become egotistical and, think he's better than everybody, and then we start to have a problem on our hands. So I hope, as I said, and I think Ange is probably the right manager. I think in years gone by, we've had the likes of Conte and Mourinho who have treated, our youth academy appallingly. So I'm hoping now with Ange, this is something that we will take our time, we'll look to get right, and he will make sure he's blended in and given more and more minutes as the season goes on.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely the right way to do it. So thank you very much, Justin. Next, I want to move on to the Yves Bissouma incident. And for people who haven't seen it, Bissouma filmed himself inhaling laughing gas and uploaded it to Snapchat. He's apologised, saying he had a severe lack of judgment in doing what he did. And Tottenham have said they're investigating and it will be dealt with internally. It's the Sun that broke this. Ian, do you know what? I'll start with you, because you said you've got something to say about it. So, we'll kick it off with you. What do you make of Bissouma? It's crazy, isn't it, what he's doing just before a new season as well?
I'm utterly disgusted by Bissouma. I can't find words strong enough that I can use on a what might loosely call a family show that sum up my disappointment. When you think, for a lot of footballers, not all, they come from fairly humble backgrounds. And I read in the Sun, where it broke the story, he earns £55,000 a week, which is, in football terms, not mega money, except for that's £2.5 million a year plus. And you behave like that. I just don't understand it. And I don't think the irony should be lost that story broke on the day of Mikey Moore's 17th birthday, where we're getting him to sign his first professional contract, and we're thinking. I mean, I didn't speak about Mikey Moore, but I think he's the best young player I've seen at Tottenham since Glenn Hoddle. When Hoddle, I think, was 17, I was 15. He's the best since then, and yeah, I agree with the rest. I don't know. I'm actually surprised the club hasn't suspended him. I mean, this is a criminal act now, rightly or wrongly. It's a criminal act. If we could get money for him, I would have him out the door. If you did this and you brought in your regular workplace, you would be dismissed. Disciplinary hearing, gross misconduct, out. Now, you can't really do that with footballers as easily, not least of which the value of the player is in their registrations. And I don't suppose anybody would want to just throw away a £25 million investment. But his form has been poor. Concentration doesn't always seem right, and you think, well, what else is he doing? What else is he doing as a role model? If you think you're Mikey Moore's father, Mikey Moore's agent, and Bissouma's around the place, are you saying, is this actually the club that I want to be at? Is this the club you should be at? For setting that kind of example? No, I want him out of my club.
Okay. That's interesting to hear, and I can understand where you're coming from. It is something that is legal. Let's be very, very clear here. He is a role model, and I don't think you accept people make mistakes. You apologise, but you would have seen what happened with Bentancur and all this stuff. We're all recircle, as I call it, and come back up. So I don't know why you'd even think about doing it, let alone doing it, then putting it on social media as well, even if it is privately. So I think that you summarised that well, Ian. Billy, I'll come to you secondly. Where do you stand with the Bissouma incident? I mean, it came out of nowhere, didn't it? And it is poor, whatever way you look at it.
It is really poor. And I think literally last week he did an interview about Postecoglou where he's talking about how he sees him as a father figure. And he's one of the best coaches in the world. And then he's completely let him down massively, almost, on the eve of a new season, which is really disappointing. And this, in the wake of letting him down copious times last season with discipline and getting sent off and red cards and suspensions and then being unfit. So when he first started in the season, last season, he was excellent. He was one of our best players. And then he kept getting suspended. He had a 4-game ban, didn't he, at one point? Didn't really ever come back to the same kind of form for the rest of the season. And then before the season's even started, he's let him down again. So it's really, really disappointing. And I think because of the lack of form that he showed at the end of last season and now the disciplinary record, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a player that we look to upgrade on. Possibly Archie Gray already might be in that conversation. I'd like to personally would like to go out and sign another 6, but it's really disappointing.
Yeah, it's disappointing. Julie, slightly different question to you. What do you think will happen? Obviously, I don't know if you've seen what's happened with Bissouma. Obviously, it's recycled a lot in the last 24, 48 hours. But what do you think will happen? Obviously, I think we can all agree on the panel it's wrong. What do you think the club will do? Because they want to treat it seriously, weren't they? They want to, it has to be treated seriously.
Yeah. Think back when Lloris was done for being completely drunk in charge of his car. So, like we were saying, if he was a bloke in an ordinary job, he would have been fired, basically. But because he was Lloris, and the club captain, couldn't do that. So I don't know, but you could say Lloris really had a value to the side and the squad. I don't think Bissouma has really. I mean, I go with what everybody's been saying about him. He beginning of last season, he was absolutely mustard. I thought, yeah, we've got a player here. And then I think I remember he went down with malaria, didn't he, at one stage? And after that, everything just tailed off. There's also the kind of complacent stupidity of what he did. I mean, not only doing that, And, this is a guy, on a huge salary, doing that, which is criminal, and putting it on Snapchat. Okay, so it was private Snapchat, but nothing is private on social media, really. I just can't get over how stupid he was to do that. And, what you want in a top footballer is intelligence. And that seemed to me not to be intelligent at all. My mum used to say of people like that, he's a wrong un, and I'm just worried that Bissouma is turning out to be a wrong un.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's the worrying thing. I think the club will deal with this, and you would have thought it'd been before the first game of the season as well. I actually thought it'd be today, to be honest with you, but they certainly will be taking action. I'm sure discussions are ongoing as we speak. Justin, I'll come to you. What's he doing, Bissouma? It's whatever way you look at it. I mean, you can, even if you dive deep and try and understand the thinking behind it, it doesn't excuse it, does it?
Well, I think it shows a very massive level of immaturity from a guy that Ange said last season that you could be a real big player for the club, and then he proceeded to be late for training. So you sort of look at it and you just think, where do Spurs go here? Because my initial worry was that when you look at the team that was probably going to start against Leicester, I think he would have started. Now, if he does start, I think that sends out the wrong message altogether. I understand where Ian's coming on from with regards to wanting him out of the club. I get that, because I think, as I said, there's a lot of problems there, and you tend to find that footballers live in this completely different world that we seem to accept sometimes their behaviour because of what they do, and it sadly shouldn't be the case, but sadly it is. But I think the difficulty with Bissouma is multiple ones. The fact is his attitude hasn't been great, his form hasn't been great, and now recently his behaviour hasn't been great. So you do look at it and you think to yourself, you could look at obviously what's gone on with Bentancur as well. Where does that sort of sit? Hopefully, though, Bentancur maybe will have learned from this. And my worry with Bissouma is the fact is that obviously this isn't the first time. Obviously, he had issues with Mali and wasn't selected for them for the AFCON. So it's going to be a difficult one because he is an excellent player. But I do think that Tottenham perhaps need to keep him around, try and get him settled so that they potentially apply on their hands, either can rehabilitate or maybe just enough so they can sell him. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Big up to Chris. Big up to Chris in the YouTube chat who says, "Hi all, first time here. 3:40 a.m. near Perth, Australia. So really appreciate firstly the dedication. Can the club cancel his contract because his behaviour?" It's a good question. I think they can. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Sorry, I wanted to come in on that, Julia. I don't know how familiar you are with player contracts. I've not got massive experience of player contracts, but I've got a lot of experience of HR and employment law, and there will almost certainly be a clause in the player's contract about conduct bringing the club into disrepute, and I would imagine as well that would include use of drugs, consumption of drugs or illegal substances or whatever. And this is now I think a class C drug, I think it counts as. So there would almost certainly be a right to do that if the club wanted. The problem was that by cancelling his contract, you'd almost certainly have to cancel his registration as well. And if you cancel his registration, he's a free agent and can go and sign for somebody else. And therein lies the financial as much as moral dilemma, that are you prepared to, that's what I said in my earlier answer, are you prepared to throw away a £25 million investment to be on the right side of the moral argument? Julie, I don't know if it's something you've got any knowledge or insight into this from your work.
No, I mean, I don't. I would think that as you say, it would be a standard HR thing, bringing the club into disrepute. But I take on board everything you're saying. There are so many sort of issues which transpire from it. It's a very difficult one, particularly as the club had form sort of keeping Lloris on. I mean, as I said before, Lloris was very valuable to the club. I don't think Bissouma is very valuable now. I think it also, because Ange has been telling him, you're a leader, blah, 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 go and sort of, set an example to the youth players. It makes Ange look a bit of a twit as well, as though he hadn't kind of really sussed this bloke out. So it's a very difficult issue. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think they'll boot him out because of all the sort of tangles which will which will go on from that. I just, you want to like or love every player that plays for Spurs, but Bissouma has been very hard to appreciate, I must say. And the fact that, he's not really done an awful lot on the pitch makes it hard, makes it easier not to want him. Should Andy Gray be coming in at number 6? Well, before this show started, I was sort of sharing my sort of little fantasy that Andy Gray was going to be our new Dave Mackay. Now, younger listeners, younger viewers, kind of may not know of Dave Mackay in his in full flight, but he was magnificent, and he was not only a very hard player, but he was a very, very gifted player, and I think it's probably a bit early to be going on about this, but if Andy Gray was to come in instead of Bissouma against Leicester, for instance, I would be really pleased, and I think he'd do us proud.
Yeah,
no, I'll be honest. So. I'd be disappointed if Bissouma starts against Leicester. I really would.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be the right thing. I mean, for me, I don't necessarily. This is just my opinion, but I think that the club didn't take a strong enough stance with Lloris. I think it's a serious thing, and I think a lot of fans, in particular younger fans, look up as role models. And I think to keep him on as a captain, I think he's really bad, to be honest with you. Julie, I completely agree. A lot of service to the club, but you break the rules, you pay the price, and you've got to compare it to a normal job. If it's a normal job, he'd be punished. So it should be exactly the same. I don't see footballers as any higher. It should be exactly the same. You take the big paycheck, they should be in the spotlight, and they should be punished for anything that is released. And I think it should be. So I think, if that's Bissouma, I would probably say, goodbye. I'm sorry, but this is not a player we want representing the club. They've done it similar with Fabio Paratici. I also think that's the right thing. Although I really like what we've done for the club, you can't be breaking rules. It's as simple as that. But we will move on from the Bissouma incident because I want to get on to the Leicester game. So, Billy, I'll start with you. Let's focus on Leicester first. What do you want your team to look like going into Leicester? We talk about Bissouma and that. Talk me through your starting 11.
So I would go for the usual back four that we always see. Obviously, Vicario and goal goes without saying. Then Porro, Van de Ven, Udogie, and Romero. And then I think it might have been David. Someone said it in the chat a minute ago. I probably play Bentancur as the number 6 right now, just because he's got his experience. And I agree. I don't think Bissouma can start. I think Bissouma will start though, because it's a completely different debate. But I don't think football does a very good job of dealing with or punishing players for more, for their mistakes. I don't think there's much morality involved in football, certainly not as much as there should be. But that's a completely different debate. So I do think Bissouma will start. I would start Bentancur there though, and then Sarr. I think the big debate, which everyone is going to be talking about after preseason, is Bergwall or Maddison. I think Maddison will start, but I think Bergwall's probably looked better in preseason. And then the front three, we go Solanke, Son, and Johnson. Which I think is what will happen. But there's a couple of interesting question marks there, whether we would start Bergwall over Maddison, whether Solanke should come straight in over Kulusevski, who's had a really good preseason in number 9. But I think from the way that Andrew was talking the other day, I think he's going to chuck Solanke straight in there.
Yeah, I think so as well, and I hope so. In a way, thank you, Ian. What would your lineup look like against Leicester? You're on mute again, I'm afraid.
Sorry, I keep putting myself on mute, so
That's okay.
noise is coming to the studio. Sorry. Sorry, I've lost my. Yeah, I'll go back on what JJ was talking about earlier. I do think there'll be more signings. Whether there's going to be more signings before the weekend, because I suspect the registration time will be like 5 o'clock on Friday or something. I don't know, and I think if there are signings, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody came in. I also wouldn't be playing Bissouma, although I suspect Ange would probably have given his old heads a go and started with Bissouma, Bentancur, Bissouma, either Bentancur or Sarr and Maddison. And none of those have done enough in my money to justify a start. But I mean, let me tell you, I mean, Vicario. I mean, I think the back five picks itself, barring injuries. I would be worried about playing too many kids straight off. So I am going to play Bentancur in the number 6. And then I'm going to play Decky, who's been really excellent in pre-season, in that sort of right-sided number 8. And I'm going to play Bergvall on my left-sided number 8. I think they've both done enough pre-season. That's the team I would pick, maybe a bit riskier, but let's go out and beat Leicester. And then Son left, Solanke right, and again I'm going with Johnson right. That's another area we probably need to upgrade on that right-hand side. But that would be my starting 11.
Okay, thank you very much, Justin. What would be your starting 11? Does it see Lucas Bergvall in there?
It does. It does, actually. It sees him and Archie Gray. You know, I think looking at it, I think I agree with what Ian said. I think the back five picks itself. You know, it's going to be Vicario, Porro, Van der Ven, Romero, and Udogie. I do feel, though, based on what we've seen in pre-season, I think I'd like to see, Gray and Bergvall and, going in with either Maddison if he plays Bergvall behind, or going with Bentancur and playing Bergvall as a number 10. I'd like to see Kulusevski on the right, because I feel that he has had a really good pre-season, and I think he would offer something different, someone who could just almost ghost into those positions, and actually almost in a way like Bale used to. Bale wasn't really one for whipping the ball in, but he was one who would move the ball, shift it onto his left foot and hit it. So, I think we hopefully maybe see more of that, especially from what we've seen so far at Kulusevski. So I think I'd like to see him, Son on the left, and then Solanke has to start for me. I think, he's had a pre-season and Bournemouth, he'll have a point to prove and he'll want to be up and running. So that would be my starting lineup.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we go on to where we'll finish next season and score predictions before we wrap up, Julie, talk me through your team.
Okay, I agree. Back five, absolutely what everybody else has said. Definitely Kulusevski has got to play. He's really in form. I think it's going to be a half and half again. I think Maddison will start, but I think we'll get. I'd definitely have Bergvall on for the second half at least. I'm a bit worried about Son. I don't think you've got to pick him, obviously, but I don't think he's going to play the full match. He looked really kind of tired on Saturday. So I don't know. It's difficult. Do you bring in Bentancur? I mean, he did look very good, but he's had, a while out. It's a difficult one, but then, I'm not paid to choose the side, so I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever it may be.
I've got one question I wanted to ask what everybody thinks. What's going to happen to Richarlison?
I think that he stays now after he puts that out on Instagram. Yeah, I think he stays, and maybe in January something might, I don't know, come up. But I think he's locked in for now. What do you think, Julie?
Well, I just think, Solanke is here. He's picked for that role. Richarlison was going to have to fill in, and was having to fill in, and didn't do it. Richarlison had a bad season. He had problems and issues. I just don't see where it's going to go with Richarlison. It was fantastic in the World Cup, but it just hasn't really. Yeah. So somebody called Ronnie has just said super sub. Yeah, that's about it. That'll do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you very much. We'll go on to where we will finish, but because of time, we're very wary of. I just want the position that we're going to finish come the end of the season. So be thinking now, not why, just the position. Billy, I'll kick it off with you. Where are we going to finish come the end of the season?
I'm going to go with my beginning of the season. I have to go optimistic. I'm going to say fourth, and I think that'd be.
Okay.
What I really hope for as a trophy, which is a different question. But yeah, fourth is what I'm going to say. Just because it's the beginning of the season, and if you're not optimistic at the beginning, then when are you going to be? So yeah.
Very, very true. And I would take fourth. Julie?
I'd probably say just battling it out again for fourth and might be fifth, but hopefully a trophy.
Fingers crossed. Ian, where are we going to finish?
Yeah, my big heart will always overrule my small brain. Third and a cup.
Oh, love it. Right, absolutely right. I'll pay you whatever. Let's make that happen. I hope you're right. I won't hold you to count over it though. Justin, where are we going to finish?
I'm going to go fifth. I think the problem is we haven't got enough quality to deal with all the competitions. And I think Tottenham will do what Tottenham do, which is spread themselves too thin rather than potentially focusing on ones where they could actually have some real success in. So maybe, because I'd like to see them go for the Europa League. I think they'll have a better chance of that than they will do in some of the other competitions. But I think it'll be fifth.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing around the panel is score prediction. Again, not why because of time, just the score prediction. So I'm going to mix the order up this time. So do be thinking. Ian, what's the score going to be? 7 days' time.
I think we're going to win comfortably 3-0.
Okay, love it. Justin?
I think it's going to be 2-1 Spurs. I think it'll be a scrappy game. I think Leicester will be up for it, but I think we'll score a couple and win 2-1.
As long as we win, that's all that matters. Thank you everyone in the comments who's saying the scores as well. A lot of scores. Got 5-0 Spurs, 2-1 Leicester. Oh, real contrast there. Julie, what's the score going to be?
I'm going for 3-1 Spurs.
3-1 Spurs. I think we're going to finish 10th if there's no more signings. That's harsh. Billy, what's the score going to be?
4-1 to Tottenham. Yeah, we're gonna smash them. And then just got promoted. We'll be fine.
Oh, I love it. We've got a lot of score predictions in the chat, so big up everyone. I'm afraid we don't have time for your questions of this week's show, but we will carry them over to next week's show. So don't worry, we will get them answered by the panel next week. So thanks to everyone who's come on. Firstly, Julie, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm afraid. At Dame Julie Welsh. And
Thank you very much. Billy, where can people find you on social media? They should know if they don't.
Yeah, Billie T on Twitter, and I'm looking forward to joining the show a few times over the next season. And I'll see you on Wednesday as well, which I look forward to.
You shall, for the launch of the brand new Premier League show. So it's great to have you committed for this season. Thank you very much, Billy. Ian, where can people find you? Talk to people about Spurs diehards.
Get me on Twitter at Shaggy1712. I'll always follow back my fellow Spurs supporters. I think you probably all four of you are now following and follow me. We've got a new channel ourselves, Spurs Diehards, TTID, Tottenham Till I Die. We go out on a Tuesday and a Friday, and I host on a Sunday night. So if people are looking for some really good grown-up chat as well, Sunday night 8 p.m. That's my show. Thank you very much. Go check it out. And Justin, regular, where can people find you?
Yeah, so pretty much here regularly, or Twitter generally is where you can find me. So at JJ Coda, and as most people know, if I put something on there, if you've got a question or want to come back to me, I'll always happily respond back. So thank you again for having us on.
No, thank you. Go follow my excellent panel. Thank you to everyone in the chat. You continue to make the show special. A lot of you watching live on YouTube. So if you are, smash that subscribe button. It's free to do so. Really, really quick as well. So even if you don't come back, that'd be massively appreciated. If you're listening on a podcast platform after, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. But for now, a massive come on you Spurs. Let's hope for a first win.
Go you Spurs.
Working as a manager at Celtic Park when we met you. We picked you out, you shook us up and turned us around. You've turned us into something new. Ange Postecoglou, you know that we believe it when you say you're gonna change it. Ange Postecoglou, we're the mighty Tottenham and nobody's gonna stop them. Oh, we look so fine in blue and lily white. And then he said to me, I'm from a land down under. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou,